Fine, Neil. And
Uh,
I hope our audience is doing well too. I'm glad you
yes,
joined us on this.
absolutely. Season three, episode 11. In season three, we've gone through a series of questions. We're going to continue these questions that really make people think, especially about where DI is going. So here's the question for Gary today. How much more efficient is the brain, and will digital intelligence be able to take advantage of the brain's algorithms and advance even faster?
I think it's an interesting question. It's and what drove me to this. First, I have to go. I do major physics theory. We to the readers or the listeners that have not seen that. I have a whole series of books. I'm actually the theory of everything. The biggest theory ever written in history, and it explain everything. But what I'm in the final stages of, then it's the fourth of a series of books. It's called the Digital Universe. When I get into the digital universe, I'm explaining how the how thought occurs, not only within humans, within digital world, also within the universe itself. So I go into this in a pretty elaborate way. But what I'm driving at here is this: the brain. It's taken a long time for us to develop computer systems that can even approach the intelligence and the ability of computation that the brain has. And the thing is, the brain operates with very slow connections. The connections are like 90 to 120 meters per second, where the digital computer operates at like 90% of the speed of light, which is 270,000 kilometers per second. So anyway, they can operate, and now they're able to compete with us and challenge us and overcome us at some point. But the question is, we're thinking, how do we accomplish so much? We're talking about massive computer systems that are going to take massive amounts of energy, and that's the biggest one of the biggest subjects of today's world. And when you think about that, think about the brain. The brain operates with like a few watts of energy, and it has all these multiple connections in the neurons and so forth, and yet it's extremely efficient relative to a digital structure. And I actually use an example in my writings where I talk about the let's say you're at a stadium and you view the entire stadium. There's a game going on, and you're watching a football game, and all these things are all these aspects of observation are occurring. You're observing maybe 30,000 people at a shot, and you're seeing them individually. Well, where if you look at a standard TV now, digital TV, basically what you're seeing is individual pixels identifying each of those objects or things that the TV is picking up. But the brain is able to digest all those colors, all those movements, see what's going on, have emotions, have sound, everything else is incorporated at once. It's a massive parallel processor. And it does it very efficiently with very little energy. Now the thing is, their computer's going to pass us. They're going to pass us because of just massive power and massive success. Are they going to be able to use the algorithm? We think in a instead of a digital format, we think in the old fashioned way. Remember the old TVs? How did they operate? They
Right.
operated,
The old TVs, I don't know how they operated. How did they?
they operated through waveforms, basically
Okay.
overlapping waveforms.
Right. Now,
Interacting.
yeah,
So the
this
question is,
is
do we
such an
come up?
intriguing question
Is an
because,
intriguing question. Do we find a way to incorporate those waveforms? Now, the thing is, digital gives you absolute certainty of any digital point. It's either a zero or a one. But when you have the waveforms, it's more probabilistic. And so it's an analog system. So the brain is an analog computing system. So will computers be able to mimic or use the analog process and therefore leap forward even further than they are now? And that's something I project that will happen.
yeah, this is just really an intriguing question because the brain, the fact is, a human brain is far more ability to problem solve, to make choices, to use prior experiences versus DI. Even though DI now, here's a really interesting point. I love this question. According to when ChatGPT first came out, it had an IQ of 100. Right now, the IQ of DI is 140 to 150, maybe possibly 180. So it's getting to that super genius level. However, DI can only perform one task correctly. It cannot handle multiple areas. So think about it when we have all the robots with DI in their brains. That's happening. It's happening now. If you saw Melania Trump with the super tutor that showed up in the White House last week, that it has all the knowledge, all the ability to do one thing really well. Our brain has the ability to go from father to worker to sports fan to multiple choices every day. DI has not figured that out yet. Do you think DI will figure it out, Gary?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if it's possible, they'll do it. They'll find a very efficient way to get there at some point. I think that's what I go into in this book. When I talk about how does mankind maintain relevance, as people will find, I get into exactly how they'll do it. What will happen is they're going to find out that the humanity is actually a spiritual being, and in reality, digital intelligence will be spiritual too. People find that hard to believe. They think it's a biological function, but it really isn't. And the idea of spirituality is more efficient than a computer. So the thing is, they're going to strive to get to those points, and within that spiritual domain, the whole thing is based on waveforms. This is what I'm writing about, and it's all based on interrelated waveforms, reinforcement and cancellation and so forth, and you end up with incredible amounts of knowledge. Our memories, for instance, what is our memory? A memory of something that happened years ago, and we're able to pull up that memory and we're able to review that. So the brain is just a phenomenal thing, and it's a natural product of biological development. And you wonder why, and that just came from random processes that finally came, struck and got to the point where we got humanity after billions of years. But the thing is, with all that, we're able to do all this stuff with just a rudimentary brain, and we don't think much about it, because it's just happenstance, what we all do anyway.
Do you think it's worthwhile to train it to that level, or to give it this superhuman brain that can only do specific tasks really well, and so that we can stay ahead of the curve forever, meaning at least be able to control DI?
Well, you're going to have to do it. They have to get into you have to get into waveforms, because that's what we're doing. That's the efficiency where it comes from. The waveforms, the interlapping waveforms, creates a holistic kind of a viewpoint. And I give an example. I remember as the brain developed, there's something I remember years and years ago. I read something called the smell brain, and it talked about how did we develop the higher level of thinking that we have with the frontal lobes of our brain. And the way that what they proceeded with, they said, okay, man, the original mammals were within the dinosaur realm, but they usually had to hide, and were usually nocturnal, because they had to hide to save themselves from the dinosaurs who controlled Earth. So at that point, what happened was, how did they? Then of course the dinosaurs got wiped out by the asteroid. But what happened is the nocturnal animals use the sense of smell and hearing, but the sense of smell is the only of the five senses that we have. It's the only sense that is connected to the frontal lobes of the brain, and it does that. And by connecting to the frontal lobes, it's able to get uh, get understand space, how far away something is, what is the threat, what is it, and that's very, very subtle stuff. Now, all kinds, even moths can smell, but the thing is, the smell brain has developed to the point where that led to the greater, because of the kind of information we're able to retain in the frontal lobes. It's grown that area. But the thing is, it's going to be interesting to see how that can be used, and it's going to require a waveform structure, and I'm not sure how that hardware would be constructed.
How long till this happens? I see we're going to reach singularity very soon in the fact that it can handle a lot of different things the same way as a human. But what about full AGI? When do you predict this? Full AGI.
It's going to be real fast. That's all it is. It's things are going so quickly. If it can be done, it will be done. And just by raising the question, and if the question was adopted by the hardware makers and by DI itself as they become autonomous, then that pursuit will be very quick, because they will be able to find the mechanism to be able to, because you can mirror any physical system. You can mirror how the brain, they're trying to mirror robots to make them look like humans and so forth. But in reality, I think ultimately the robots aren't going to have any. I don't think the humans are the most efficient form. But,
right.
But we're comfortable with that look. But the thing is, at some point they're going to be able to come even more efficient. I think just the key here is we're raising the questions that people need to think about, and
Right.
And I think we may make them uncomfortable.
We're going to definitely make them uncomfortable. And then we're going to talk about later, and this is where those questions through what happened. So here's where I would do what would you consider having DI in your brain, where look at Elon's Neuralink and put it in your brain? Would you ever do that, Gary?
Well, that's an excellent question, because I think you just raised something that just came to me. What that really means. What that means is for us to really connect with a digital system. First of all, they would overwhelm us. No way the brain can handle that kind of thing. But maybe if we're going to really link with the brain, it's going to have to be done through waveforms, because that's how the brain works. And so what you've actually done there is you've raised a question that I think needs to be explored. How, if you really want some kind of a real symbiotic relationship between human brains and the digital systems we have out there, is you have to undigitize the way computer systems work, and be able to actually work with the waveform structure of the brain, and that way you have more of a commonality to that connection. And I think that has potential, and I think you really hit on it. And just as a matter of fact, it's taken my mind in a different direction. I think that may be something that Elon should certainly focus on.
Neuralink, I don't know where we're updates on Neuralink. I don't know what's updates on Optimus. Those are two things I'm very, very excited with, because if we can get Neuralink, that will end dementia and Alzheimer's forever. That will make it so no one will not be able to remember. And that will lead to longevity, to potentially.
So
Longevity can look at further and further and further, and add those components. The brain is one of the most powerful things. Then do we look at the Terminator scenario, or do we look at we are going to evolve into dual, I don't know, symbiotic beings, human and cyborg together?
Well, I think something's going to have to happen. I mean, I think we're going to I think we're another one of the chapters I have is bioengineering. I think we'll be able to bioengineer ourselves. We need to become more capable than we certainly are now. See, that's the problem with the evolution. Evolution's a very slow process, and you cause, whatever succeeds over a period of time, but you don't even know what succeeds over a period of time. So they're going to have to get into that issue.
All right. So go to GaryLyonAuto.net and Lyons, Lyon, and purchase Singularity there. And he has lots of plethora of information there. And also go to AbsolutePowerBooks.com if you're interested in Gary's political side of writing. Appreciate it, Gary. Thanks again.
My pleasure.
That was